Hey guys, my name is Matsumiao, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Blue Heron, and it is, what do you think of a defensive operator in Rainbow Six Siege that has two camera covers that make two cameras anywhere on the map immune from bullets, but not from a Thatcher's EMP? That is not a bad idea. I could honestly see this guy being a game changer on some maps and on some objectives. Sure, he may not be the most useful on every single map, but as long as you're using him appropriately and you have a moderate amount of communication with your teammates, like this guy could be really difficult to deal with for the offensive team. I think the best example of this is on a garage on the map House. There is a camera directly on that objective if you're playing Secure the Area or if you're playing on Bomb. And so if offense wants to make their way anywhere near that capture points, defense, as long as they're communicating once again. And what I like about this is that it would require coordination. You would have to communicate with people, so that is one aspect of it. But if anyone's making a call out, you're gonna know where they are at all times in that objective, and that's a big game changer. Knowing where the enemy is in Rainbow Six Siege gives you a massive advantage. Even if you're solo, even if you just need to peer through the camera really quickly, realize, oh, he's on the left-hand side, that also gives you a massive advantage. And so if the only way that you can take this thing out is with an EMP, and not everyone is gonna run a Thatcher, or Thatcher may have used all of his charges just to get into the garage itself, that is going to be very, very difficult for the offensive team to deal with. And so I'd like to get your guys' take on this. The one thing I like about it is that it would require coordination and teamwork. I love when Ubisoft adds in a new operator that has that aspect. I love when they try to bring teams together and coordinate. But on the other side, on some maps, like this could be really, really challenging. And so do you like the idea? Do you think it's too powerful? Do you think it's useless? Do you think that on average, on most maps, this guy wouldn't have that much of an impact or influence on the way that the match progresses? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question comes from Patrick, and it is, do you think that Ubisoft went too far nerfing Blackbeard? Well, I know a lot of people like to make fun of Blackbeard and call him Nerfbeard because he did get kind of slapped in the face with the old Nerf bat. Like, he got nerfed hard. When he was first released, his shield had 800 HP. Then it went down to 150 and he got 2 of them. Now they brought that shield down to only 60 HP. And if you look at what he used to be, like, it's a huge nerf. Like, they really kicked this guy in the nuts. And so I could absolutely see why people make fun of him and do call him Nerfbeard. That said, though, I definitely do not think that this guy is worthless. In capable hands, this guy is still a very strong operator because he gets an advantage on a one-on-one firefights. I think the reason why a lot of people were upset originally that he got nerfed so hard was because he's no longer that god tier operator. I remember in the pro scene, he had a 100% pick rate. It didn't matter what map they were playing on, it didn't matter the situation, every single time offense was picking Blackbeard because why wouldn't you? He had at least a reasonably strong gun, we'll kind of get to that here in a second, but the simple fact that he could sit outside an objective, had a shield that had 800 HP, why wouldn't you choose this guy? You won a one-on-one firefight basically every single time because of the way that Rainbow Six Siege works. And so with all that being said, I still don't think that Blackbeard needs to have an upgrade to a shield. I know there's gonna be people that will disagree with me on this one, and honestly, if it bumped up to like 70 or 80 HP, well, I wouldn't be thrilled about it, I would be okay. I think that at least in its current position with that 60 HP, it gives you enough of a buffer to retaliate, hopefully win the firefight, and now you've won that firefight because of your shield and you put your team at a massive advantage. Dropping the enemy one player is gonna shift things in your favor, and if you can do that one more time with another shield, like that's gonna be a really big deal. What I'm not okay with though, is the way that they handled balancing out his weapon, and I think that's what could use some tweaking. Originally, I believe, if memory serves, they tried to nerf his power by nerfing his assault rifle. I think they gave it more recoil, I think they may have reduced its, I actually know that they reduced its damage, so that it wasn't this powerhouse gun alongside having an amazing shield. When that wasn't enough, then they nerfed the shield, but I don't think that they did any more changes to the weapon, so it stayed nerfed, and they nerfed his shield in the process. And so what I would like to see done is just to slightly improve his weapon somehow. Maybe it needs to do a little bit more damage at range, slightly reduce its recoil, because when you have someone like Jackal who's introduced, who has probably the most amazing assault rifle in the game, like that thing is god tier, and then you kind of look over at Blackbeard with his high power gun, which has a very slow rounds per minute, a lot of recoil, Like, it doesn't compare. And while I know that Blackbeard does have its shield, I think that they could do something to at least make it a bit more appealing. At the end of the day, though, I realize that this is a bit of a controversial topic. Some people love the fact that Blackbeard has been nerfed because they despise fighting against him every single round, and on the other side of the coin, you have people that love to play as this guy and just don't feel like he is up to snuff compared to some of the other operators. The next question comes from Devin, and it is, how would you feel about a game mode in Battlefield 1 where players die or vehicles are destroyed, they don't disappear? This would capture the true horrors of a First World War by having the bodies of players covering the battlefield and would provide situational cover for players when hiding behind a destroyed vehicle. I have thought about this in the past, and while I really like the idea, because you're right, if you just saw bodies scattered around everywhere, vehicle carcasses were all over the map, like that would give you a true sense of a battlefield. Like the battlefield is progressing, not just because of the destruction and the capture points that you're taking, but also because of the carnage that is just lying around you. Sadly, though, I can think of a couple of problems with this concept. The first big one that comes to mind is just simple hardware limitations. At the end of the day, we have to remember that both consoles and a wide array of different PC specs need to be able to run this game fluidly. Imagine having hundreds of dead bodies scattered around the map. On top of that, having like 50 tank carcasses, if it's a really long round, just lying around. And while I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert on the topic, because I don't know anything about the Frostbite engine, I especially don't know anything about game developments, I can only imagine by having all of these things rendered and staying there that would cause some serious issues on the hardware. The other thing I can think of just comes down to simple gameplay. While conceptually it sounds awesome, having a bunch of tanks that you can hide behind, especially if you're having a hard time pushing on operations, for example, using the tank carcasses to your advantage and using them as dynamic cover sounds incredible. Like from a gameplay standpoint, at least conceptually, this sounds like a really good idea. What happens though, when an objective is just surrounded by dead tank carcasses? What if it's blocking key access routes to get onto the objective? And while the person who was driving it may not have been trying to troll your team, now your team is having to deal with this tank the entire round, and that could also cause some serious problems. We would also probably have some players that would hide in all the dead bodies. If there's just a stack of dead bodies and you know that they're not just gonna disappear, just kind of hop on in, wait to hear and listen for someone to run on by, jump out really quickly because you're going to clip through the bodies, and then shoot the person that was there and take them out. That would also be a bit of an issue. And so while conceptually, as I said, I love the idea, I think it's really cool, it would really capture the essence of World War I because people were dying everywhere, it was horrific, because of these gameplay issues, and I think there would also be some hardware restrictions as well, I just don't see this happening for Battlefield 1. The next question comes from Anthony, and it is, what do you think about being able to customize the size and brightness of the reticles on sights in Rainbow Six Siege? I have found many times where I say to myself, man, I wish my reflex was smaller or that it wasn't so bright. Yeah, I absolutely agree with this idea, and I would love if Ubisoft adopted what DICE did with Battlefield 4. I don't know if you guys ever played Battlefield 4, but near the very end, DICE added in this amazing feature where not only could you change the color of your reticle, but you could change the size and the brightness of it as well. And so what's great about this, which is pretty obvious, is that it just gives the player a lot of flexibility. If you're someone who doesn't enjoy the red dot, you want to change it to like a green because you think that green would stand out more on some maps, you got that option. You want to have a really large red dot so that you can actually see the red dot and you feel like that's going to make it easier for you, then that would also be available. I think the reason why I'm kind of annoyed with the way that they've handled the sights in Rainbow Six Siege is that they haven't been consistent with them. A couple of months ago, they changed the red dot and the reflex sight and made them a lot smaller. For me, it was great. I thought that they were way too big in the past. If you're trying to line up a headshot, even at a medium distance, you would lose your target in the reticle. Like, it was just way too large. So they reduced the size. I was all for it. But then with this most recent patch, they made them just as big. I like the fact that they're nice and bright and that I can clearly see them, but they took like another step back and made them too large. And so if you just gave the player the agency to make the adjustments that they want, I don't think that this would give a player an advantage one way or the other. Like, it's all about personal preference at that point. That would be a great direction. Who knows? Maybe this is Ubisoft's subtle way of trying to balance out the different reticles. I don't think that's actually the case, case, but I could be wrong. And so I'm right there with you. I would love to have some options like this in Rainbow Six Siege, and I think that it would be a great step in the right direction. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed today. Would you love to see Blackbeard get a buff? Do you think that he's in a good place right now? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for a future episode, you can also leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.